By the way, the guys are making me show the Open to when we were on back in the day. You would never remember this, but...
Who was on with you that day?
Hugh Laurie and George Clinton.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes, the boy who KO'd T.O. He's a freshman at Syracuse University. He landed the interview that led to the suspension of Philadelphia Eagles, Terrell Owens. Yeah, your man, T.O. T.O. Please welcome 19-year-old sports reporter Graham Bensinger. Graham, come on out here.
How do you feel we did in terms of teeing up the fact that I had been on The Tonight Show before? I feel like I was so awkward. So awkward.
I can go first? Yeah, I don't know.
Wait, Seth is grinning before.
I just think he didn't give a shit.
Right.
I don't think you did anything. I think it would have...
But that was my point, why I didn't want to do it in the first place.
Yeah, I think it would, because I think even we had mentioned something the day before on Side Check of like, Graham was in a show, and he was like, oh, of course I remember. Yeah, I only did a handful of episodes.
Do you remember when he was on?
Well, vaguely, it's 4,631 shows.
Well, right. I wasn't sure.
Yes,
like,
yes.
A 19-year-old
June
coming
2nd?
on.
Yeah.
Next, right. But my thing is the way that we operate let's film everything and anything to the point where we're overshooting and getting content we don't need. There was on the off chance that he said something funny or did something funny, there's no harm in showing him that clip. And I thought you were kind of weird that you were so hesitant to do it.
Well, because because this one was important to me. I'd been working on it forever. I guess we can start there. I first put in a request for Jay in either late 2005 or the beginning of 2006. I was on The Tonight Show in November of 2005 and pretty consistently followed up since then. So this is one I've wanted for a long time. And I just, you run through in your head how a situation is going to play out. And I just kept running that through my head. And I'm like, I don't know how I make this seem normal. Yeah. Because I think I felt like I was going to be awkward, and I was awkward.
Well, was it what I thought it was going to be? Sort of, but was that the best it could be? No,
it could have been better.
It could have been better. It didn't work out, but if I had 100 more instances of doing the Leno Show again to redo it, I would do the exact same thing over again.
I do think the reason that we didn't get the reaction we wanted out of Jay is because Jay doesn't look at himself as a big deal. So for him, you having been on The Tonight Show, though it was a big deal to you, he's like, yeah, who cares?
Yeah, he did 22 years.
And he never really seemed to, by talking to him about it, he never took it too serious.
Yeah.
He was never
How crazy was it the day before you guys show up for the site check, and then there he is?
Jay's just there. It was incredible. I didn't expect it at all. And I was like, holy shit, it's Jay Leno. Which we don't get those moments a lot,
Well, it's not often that the person that we're profiling is there for the site check. It happens, it happened with Steve Young. It happens time to time.
It happened, yeah.
But
there's been a handful
always.
of people. But Jay being Jay, I didn't think we'd see him until 10 minutes before the interview.
Yeah, I agree.
And not only was he just there when we did the site check, he was hanging out with us for 3 hours. He was walking around with us. He was telling us stories.
Yeah.
One of the coolest moments for me, maybe in the history of the show, was he looked at his guy and he was like, yeah, do you think he would like this thing or whatever? And talking about me, and he was like, yeah, maybe. And he was like, come here, come with me. And then Jay and I just walked down the length of his huge warehouse so he could show me this old record player. And that whole walk, I was just like, it's Jay Leno. It's just so weird.
Did you guys get BTS of that, or was that after?
We were getting BTS, and then we kind of got
here and there.
Yeah. We got.
Mario was running
almost
for your
of
sake,
that moment.
Yeah.
There's definitely moments of Jay and I talking on BTS, but they were a little bit
right.
It was weird with how much they shoot in that place, and they let us shoot in there. That how little of it they actually want to show.
Which is in a way cool that it was just for you.
That's exactly the moment.
However, to remember that forever, footage of it.
I'll remember it. That's not something I'll forget.
How often does anybody go back? I take all these photos of all these places, all these trips. I never go back and look at them.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. I'll remember that. I don't need to have video to remember. There are some stuff I think that's cool. Like there's in moments that were a little different, like me talking to Tom Hanks in the Zoom thing, like having footage of that's cool.
Yeah.
Or Matthew McConaughey. But for me, like when it's in person, the fact that I just got to like share some time with Jay and have genuine conversations that didn't feel like I wasn't nervous. He wasn't trying to be on. It was just a conversation with a guy. Like those are just like really cool moments.
And the first thing we walk up, Graham wasn't there on the site check day, but the first thing he says when we walk up, we're like, yep, this is Jay Leno.
Yeah, he goes, you guys look like the worst boy band I've ever seen.
Oh yeah. Hey there.
How you doing, Jay?
I'm Brad. Great
Gentlemen,
to meet you.
gentlemen, gentlemen. Thanks for dressing. I appreciate it. Calm down, yeah. What are you guys up to?
Well, we have band practice in a little bit.
Yeah. I'm not a car guy.
You
He has
aren't?
200. No, I'm not. I drive a 2007. Does that need to get bleeped for advertising?
Yeah.
I drive a 2007 normal sedan vehicle. Very run of the mill. So stepping into
This podcast is sponsored by Toyota.
great for that.
Yeah.
I have no idea how this is going to get cut.
Wait. He has
200 cars.
140,000 square foot garage, more than 200 cars, and closing in on 200 motorcycles.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's crazy. I'm not to piggyback off Brad, I'm not a car guy at all, but I was also like, I could have walked around there all, which we kind of did.
That's what I was trying to go with. That was not a car guy, but you walk in there and you don't, I'm sure I didn't appreciate the value and history of some of the cars, but you immediately understand it when you walk by. Like, I know enough to know that a McLaren is crazy expensive. Now, $20 million, like that's mind-boggling.
And probably more like 30
Yeah.
at this
Sure,
point.
right.
And he bought it for, what, 800,000
That's what he said.
1998 or 1999,
Yeah.
something like that.
I think the weirdest thing about having the collection that he has, and every car's in impeccable shape, they're like one of a kind, everything. If you went to somebody's house and they had one of those cars, you'd be like, holy like this thing's sick, this is amazing. But you walk in there and there's 250 something of them, and it's like, you get overwhelmed. You're like, that one's cool, that one's cool, that one's cool. And then you're eventually just like, you're just walking. Yeah, you're leaning and you look back and you're like, oh, this is like a one of a kind.
And this will likely become a museum when Jay passes. He already needs a full-time staff to care for him. He made the comment that if he did one oil change a day, it would take 18 months to get through all of them. And also because of how old so many of them are, he actually fabricates all of his, or the majority of his parts for these cars and motorcycles.
He has to.
Which is crazy.
Well, we were talking to Jimmy, one of his mechanics, and I talked to Jimmy for a while. He was like a brilliant guy, but he was talking about what it's like. They'll get like this one-of-a-kind car that doesn't work, and it was built by some guy that just kind of like threw something together, but it's not functioning. So then Jimmy has to go in and figure out how it's supposed to function. So like something that's completely broken that is a one-of-a-kind thing, then Jimmy's job is to go through and be like, okay, what does this thing do? What is this? And then he has to rebuild it all.
Which, if you're a mechanic, how cool of a job
He said
is
it's
that?
like the best possible job he
Right.
could have. One of 5 dudes working for Jay on, crazy cars.
Now, we were all a little bummed that the tour ended up being less extensive than we were assuming it would be. And probably way less extensive than you guys got.
I was going to say, we got
before.
a way better tour than you did.
Why do you think that was?
I think because, again, Jay doesn't want to he doesn't care about being flashy. He doesn't care about showing off his He was walking around with us and we were showing interest and he was just talking about it. But I think if you would have been like a diehard car guy, maybe.
Well, so that's my question. Do you think because you told him I wasn't a car guy that impacted it?
Is he a car guy at all?
Here's the.
Graham? No. He's barely a guy.
Come on, give him a little more credit than that. Yeah, I think so.
Really?
I think so. Yeah, because when I was walking around, well, first of all, the main tour I got was from his executive producer, David Swift.
David, yeah. He was great. David was awesome.
Prior to that, I was talking to both David and Jay and mentioning the cars and some things that we'd want to see. And that's when Jay asked, he's like, is Graham big into cars? And I'm like, no. And Jay immediately jumped in and was like, well, okay, I just don't know then, like, what I'm going to show him. Or like, there's nothing that, I'm like, well, and that's where I was like, oh crap, I need to like figure out like car specific. I was like, I'm like, no, like we still have viewers that are going to care. And like, you know, I'm going to give Graham some questions to ask, and we're going to pick out some cars. And that's when I made sure to go on the more extensive tour with David to figure out, okay, what are some definitive what are some stories behind cars that are going to be attractive to viewers and attract guests?
Which the stupid thing about that is you don't have to be a car guy or a fan of cars to be enamored and impressed by the enormity of it, the attentiveness to what he has in the collection. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's obviously impressive. Like, you don't need to be like you said, you don't have to be a crazy enthusiast to go there and be blown away.
Right.
And what I thought was funny too is during the actual day that we're filming, and we're trying to get Jay to, you know, outlining the plan, and he's like, well, that's a lot of cars. And I mentioned, well, let's just spend 30 seconds to a minute at each car. And he's like, well, that's not enough time. And it's like, well, which one is it, you know? Like,
he for whatever reason was ready to be done when it came to the activities.
I think the interview wore him out. I think he's not used to sitting and doing anything like that for that long. So I think that might have worn him out. But
maybe we should have done the tour first.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's still going to turn out great. And, you know, from an editing standpoint, the thing I was most nervous about was not having enough time to shoot enough B-roll of the cars to cover the activity. So we shot a ton of B-roll the day before, a ton of B-roll. Like, we set the interview and then
more B-roll,
and then we had a third camera up during the interview shooting more B-roll. So we got tons of B-roll, and then we wrapped the car tour, and I look at the time code, and it's 22 minutes, and I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
We're good on B-roll.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's something we're able to get together that's more extensive because of the B-roll that just has less of us talking.
I think we can just do music and cool shots. You know, I think it'll be fine. I mean, plus the real reality is, like, we were never going to put together a 40-minute car clip. It was always going to be 10, 15 minutes, and we still have that.
Well, and the benefit of asking general questions, which we did get, you know, how long, you know, what are you going to do with it? A museum, not a museum? You know, you need more space. Is that all can get littered with B-roll of all the different cars and things like that are in there. One of the funniest car things I realized in post had to do with the car ride. So they go out in this electric, Graham and Jay go out in this electric car, they get in. There's one clearly bizarre, weird thing about this vehicle. It did not have a steering wheel. Mm-hmm. And at no point did Graham ask, how do you drive a car without a steering wheel?
What's crazy is I did not even realize that till this very moment. I mean, I remember watching him being weirded out about, like, what's going on here, but I don't know why that wouldn't have come up.
It's just a bar.
I think I was already uncomfortable by the time. It was
the first thing I asked when we were sight checking. I was like, how do you steer this thing?
But by the time we got in the car, I think I felt like I was a little out of my element, where he's like, ugh, I gotta sit with this dumb kid for the next half hour doing this. And, like, I think I was conscious of that, and I started getting more anxiety as the car went along, where I just wasn't thinking clearly, genuinely. Like, I started getting uncomfortable.
I mean, the questions themselves, and
Jay was awesome. It just, like, I was getting in my head.
But looking back at it, I don't think that did not come out in any way, even if you felt it.
I could feel the vibe, you know, where you can just kind of read the room a little bit.
Yeah, which is fine. But, like, if you watch it back, you ask good questions. He had good responses, and, you know, the car ride itself, like, wasn't this amazing end-all be-all piece of content, but it was still interesting. It's still an interesting visual to see that kind of car going down the street of Burbank. Mm-hmm. And once again, there it is, no steering wheel in there. Jay's just operating this bar.
He's got like 2 bars he's pulling. And then
Graham's just like, at no point.
So you had Obama's cell phone number? Yeah.
Which was a great story.
That was great. That was one of the, we got lucky, he just happened to tell us. Me and Mario, like, the last hour of Sidecheck was just me and Mario sitting there and him just telling us
And
it.
I guess you will have to watch the interview to see for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more from the taping,
Yeah.
and my favorite part was talking to him about his wife as well as his mom, and just a lot of history with Leno. I mean, he hung out with Gorbachev back in the day, so so much to talk to him about. 20 years in the works for EP Brad and DP Seth. I am Graham. See ya.